Hi guys, and welcome back to a brand new Roly Diaries video. Oh my gosh, hello everyone. What is the tea? What is the Darjeeling, the Lapsang Souchong, the Scalding Hot Assam, the Earl Grey? What's the tea? But yes, hi everyone, hello, welcome back to the channel. Now, I hope you're having a wonderful day, evening, week, month, wherever you are and whenever you are in the world. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And if you are new, hello, my name is Roly. I'm an LGBT body modification Reddit person here on the internet. Subscribe if you're new, and make sure you hit the like button. There's a QR code on screen here as well. If you're watching on TV, scan the QR code, join the family. Now, today I want to talk about a story that happened and a situation that happened in my life back in 2018. I don't want to say that I didn't mislead you or lie or anything, but essentially in 2018 I made a video where I was like, I quit my job and I've got a new job, and then like a few months later I did a video where I said that I was fired. I omitted a lot of information about what happened in that process between me getting this new job and being fired. The truth of what actually happened in that time was I was severely bullied out of this social media job that I had at the time, to the stage where I was left with essentially PTSD for about 6 months after I left that place. I couldn't leave the house. I was so insecure, severe anxiety, wasn't sleeping. Yeah, it wasn't fun. This isn't me trying to get sympathy or trying to think, anything like that. Obviously, I like to share my life. I like to share experiences that I've had, and hopefully this can, help other people that may have gone through similar things. As always, let's not beat around the bush and get on with this video. So, for people who do not know, I have been a YouTube creator since 2008. This year will mark my 16th anniversary of doing content on the internet, which is utterly insane to say. I have always wanted to make this a full-time job. As soon as it was able to be a job back in 2009, I always was like, right, I'm going to do whatever I can to make this a full-time job. But of course, in that process, I was working full-time retail work in Morrison's, and I got that job in 2007. So I worked my ass off for years and years and years and years and years trying to do it. For a long time, it didn't really go anywhere. It was very difficult to find what you wanted to do, especially back then when no one taught you how to be a YouTuber back then. It wasn't like you had tutorials. It was just like, you just kind of learn as you go. So everything you see now that I do has all been self-taught. I moved to London in 2015 and I was still doing Morrison's. And for a while I was living off savings, and I was like, right, YouTube has to work. And unfortunately, for the first few years I was living in London, it still wasn't really going anywhere. I definitely grew and had a lot of success in London, being there and being able to be around creators. I definitely grew, but still not enough to make it a full-time job. So in 2018, I finally made the decision. It was like, okay, I need to start to think of how I can make a little bit more of a living for myself, because I can't afford to stay in London on a Morrison's wage that I currently was doing. I started looking for social media jobs because at this point, I had been doing this for 10 years. So I knew exactly what I was doing on the internet. I knew how to present. I knew how to do Twitter. I knew how to do Instagram. I knew how to run a social media account. At this point, I had about 150,000 subscribers. So I had a good numbers on the internet. It wasn't anything to live off still, but I had good numbers at the time. So in 2018, I started working for a company that was essentially a talent management company. They had presenters, they had radio hosts, they had interview people. They would go to festivals and interview people. And there was essentially it was a talent management. They had a roster of people. There was lots of different things. There was sometimes bring celebrities in to help them. And it was essentially a talent management agency. And I'm not going to name them, not for any legal reasons, but just because they're so relevant now, which brings me so much joy. They're so irrelevant now. I don't want to give them any promotion whatsoever. Even if it's bad promotion, I'm not even gonna give them that. So I actually knew about this company for a long time because I had actually worked for them a couple of times doing I did a few guest spots on some shows that they were doing. I knew a couple people who worked there. Also, one of my close friends at the time, he was like, oh, they're looking for a social media manager. And I had applied for other jobs in this time as well. And the one thing that stood out with this job compared to everything else, in their social media job criteria, nowhere did it say that they wanted someone with an A-level degree in English or literacy. I have bad dyslexia. I really struggle with reading and writing. I always have. I have aids and tools that help me sort of keep on track of it. But because of that, a lot of these companies that want social media managers want people that can speak perfect English, can write perfectly, can read perfectly. They always want degrees in English and literature and stuff. Literacy. And I was just the same thing would just come up as you don't have an English degree. You don't have an English degree. And I was like, yeah, but I may not have an English degree, but look what I because again, I was using my numbers as an example of well, look how much I've grown. A lot of them didn't care. This company didn't care about that. And I was like, oh, so not only do I know these people, I've worked with them before, I don't have an English degree. It's completely irrelevant. I have the numbers to prove that I know how to grow a social media channel. And so I applied and I got an interview pretty much almost instantly. So I went into the interview. I'm going to obviously change people's names. So in here was, in the hierarchy of the job, there was number one who was right at the top, and he was called Keith. We're going to call him Keith. I never met him the whole time I was there, but he was like the boss, the CEO, the top man. Underneath them were the two people that I met. Sharon, who was like number two, who kind of like overseed all of his job. I think is it CMO? I forget what all the correct terms are, but there was Sharon, who was number two, and then number three was Karen. Sharon and Karen. Oh, Sharon and Karen. Walking on the beach. Now, I already knew Karen at this point. So Karen was someone that I'd been in, each time I'd gone in there, I'd met her, we'd had conversations, I've done a few like things with her. So like, I knew her at this point. I walked in, she even came and gave me a hug. Like, it was that level of like, oh, I knew her. She hugged me, which is weird for an interview. And I was like, hi, nice to meet you to Sharon. Maybe I should change her name, not Sharon, because it's Sharon and Karen. We'll call her Susan. So I met Karen and Susan. So Susan, just remember, Susan is number two, Karen is number three, in like the chain of power in this company. Now, the whole job description and what was asked of me and what was in it was like, they wanted someone new to come in because their social media at the time got a bit stagnant. It wasn't growing. They didn't know what to do to make it better. And they wanted someone to come in to revamp their social media, give it like a new lease of life. Someone who knew what they were doing, can create videos, can create content for them, and just come in and just give everything a revamp. Because the person that was doing it already, she was leaving. And so this was like a perfect example for someone else to come in and kind of just really give a bit of new life into their social media. A lot of the talent that they had under their roster, I knew a few of them as well. I mean, there was one guy who was a good friend of mine, but like I already knew of the other people as well. This is a perfect place for me. So I went into the interview, yeah, everything went well. There were one or two things that they had questions about when it comes to like, how good are you at like tweeting things and getting things done on time. I was like, I've been doing this for 10 years. I was like, I know how to get things out on tweet. I know how to work social media. I know what I'm doing at this point. Everything seemed to go well. And about a couple days later, I got a phone call from Susan, and she said, "You've got the job. Let me know when you can start. I know you're probably gonna have to give like a 2-week notice to your job." After 10 years of working on a cashier desk, it was. I had enough, sis. I did my retail duty. I went in for like an induction day for the first time. So I went in on a Friday, and then my official start date was on Monday. So I went in on a Friday and just kind of met the whole team there, met everyone. I went for like a rundown of what was needed of me, and everything in the job seemed okay, seemed relatively simple, especially for someone who knew what they were doing. It felt relatively straightforward. The girl who taught me how to use the system that they were on, like coding sites and all that shit they were doing. So they taught me how to use all this. Again, it was quite simple. They were like, all you got to do is like list out when like new shows are happening or when new talent's doing this or whatever, and you just got to like tweet out what's going on and make some content and things. And one thing they weren't really doing at the time was making like video content for people, unless it was just like clips of things they've done. And like many companies, they all want people to come in and do like post like memes and videos and jokes and things to get engagement, to get people to follow them, because you want people to follow you to, essentially. So that's the one thing they weren't really doing. So I was like, right, I can do that. And there were also two other people in the office as well that I was going to go into. So there was an editor, we're going to call him Bob, and there was his assistant, and we'll call her Mary. So Bob and Mary, so they were going to be like my work colleagues in that. So there was two different offices. There was the main office that had like the managers in there who did like manage the actual people and manage the shows and the, all the interviews that they were doing and all the different like jobs that they had. And then there was my room that got all the content that they did and then edited it, posted it, and all that stuff. So I said to Susan on that day, I was like, yep, I'll be back on Monday. This sounds great. Came on a Monday. The red flags started soon. I got in early that day because of course I wanted to make a good impression. So I was like, I'll get in early. It's great. I can turn my computer on and just kind of like set everything up and get ready to go. Susan, so she's number two, came in and was like, oh, we need to discuss the pay for this job. Maybe this should have been a question that should have been asked more in the interview, but she came up to me and she was like, so we're going to start you off at 17K. After 6 months, we will then see where everything is and we will increase it accordingly. And I was like, £17,000 a year for this type of job is very low. An average salary of like a social media manager for like a company is actually like around the 30K mark. So I was like, okay, I was expecting a little bit more than that, but it was still more than what I was making at Morrison's. I was only making about 12,000 at Morrison's. So I was like, it's still a big jump. But even then I was like, it's a bit low for this job, especially like, I was like, this isn't really gonna hold me comfortably in London still. I was like, and yes, I probably should have asked this in the interview. Again, this is all kind of new to me. Yes, I probably should have asked it, but also I feel like they maybe should have mentioned it as well in the interview process. And honestly, I was desperate. Like, I was desperate to get a new job. I didn't want to have to leave London. It was my dream to live in London. It was a normal 9-to-5 job. And yeah, 17,000. I was like, right, okay. They said in 6 months, they'll increase it anyway. So, you know, it's fine. So I was like, yep, it's fine. We did everything needed to be done. One of my tasks that were given to me on my induction day was think about a fun video concept that we can do, that on your very first day, we can film this fun video, we can make this fun video. You can sort of show us the kind of thing that you can do on the internet, some of the editing skills you have, everything. Like, so every single morning we would go in for a meeting. The whole team was there, and it wasn't a huge team. There was a lot of like interns in the place as well. So sometimes there was loads and sometimes there wasn't, but the actual team, it was a smallish, it was maybe like 15 people, I would say, maybe about 15. I got introduced to everyone who didn't know me at this point. So there was some new people there, and I saw some of the interns and things, and I was like, hi, blah, 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 blah. And so we all discussed like trending topics that were happening at the moment and what was going on. And then we discussed what was happening with like shows that week that was going to happen that day, and like what was going on and who was coming in for like interviews and who was doing this for like shows and who was going out to do whatever. So we like basically just said what was happening in the day. So in this meeting, we had this discussion about the video, and like I came up with this really fun video concept for us all to do. We're going to sit in a circle and make a joke about Marvel like Endgame, that just because it was around the time that the Avengers Endgame film came out where Thanos clicks and all the people disappear. I was going to make a joke about that. I can't remember the exact concept now because again, it was 6 years ago, but it was around that, and it was a really funny idea. It would have been really good. I was really excited about doing this video, and then I was like, right, this is my first day. I was like, can we do something fun? Like, you know, they had nice camera equipment and everything. So I was like, can we all do this thing? We'll sit around in a circle. It shouldn't take too long to make this video. As soon as I finished my sentence about what I was going to say, Karen, no, that would take too much time. We can't do that. Just do that meme thing. And I was like, okay. So the first suggestion I've given now has been suddenly just like, not just like, oh, I'm not sure we could probably do that. It was like quite quickly shut down and disregarded like it was nothing. I was like, well, you've told me to ask like a video to make with everything as well. So I came up with this good idea. Like, you told me this, and there was no tact. There was no, it was like, no, we're not doing that. Not enough time. Do something else. And it was like, okay, that was quite abrupt and blunt. And I was like, do you know what? I'm new to this company. Maybe something happened. I don't know. They told me to do this, but maybe something happened. So I was like, fine. They made us just do like a stupid meme video of Welcome to America. So was it Welcome to America? It was Childish Gambino. So it's completely not my style of thing, but I think it was Childish Gambino, right? And at the end, they just made us do some stupid meme with the music video. And I was like, this is so uncreative. The kind of content, the kind of like video meme content, when you talk about memes, was like, everything was a square. So all we did was take the music video and write something above it and write something below it to make it into a square, and the video was in the middle. That was the memes of the time at the time. And we just made some stupid joke about that song. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I was like, okay, this is exactly the content you were making beforehand, by the way. Like, this isn't new stuff. Like, I'm here to do new things. And my very first day, you're making me do what you were doing before. Now, a funny story about this is the editor, he said to me later down the line that day there, the very first day, and that happened to be inside that meeting, because he knew what they were like, which we will get into. He said to me later on down the line, that very first day, I saw the light in your eye disappear after that moment. He knew that I wouldn't last there very long. He said I was far too effervescent and like jolly for that place, and what I wanted to do would never happen. The first day kind of went relatively easy. Nothing really happened. There was one mistake in one of the posts that went out, but that was like just teething problems, of course, because I was learning the whole system properly. The shutting down of video ideas and content that I was bringing to them was being shut down a lot. Literally every single day I would probably come with like a new different idea of something. The team just wasn't really interested in doing anything that I was saying, and I wanted to like do fun videos, do things where we went and did stuff, gone outside to do things. And I get that we have a job to do inside, but it was like, you asked me to come into this studio and revamp everything, give it a new lease of life, give us some new content. When evaluating everything, all they were doing was just like posting clips from like interviews that they had done, or just like things that the talent people were doing. And it made it so their social media was so random that no one would follow this page or these pages, because why would you? It's going to be very rare that you're going to like everything that someone is doing, and they're posting a lot all day, every day, that it's a bit of a intense showcase of random things that don't coincide with each other, because they've got one person who's really into like rap music and grime. There's one person over here that does things about fitness and football. There's another one here who talks about like celebrity gossip. There was one over here that did things about that catered more towards on their Instagrams and like Twitter and Facebook and everything. That was all about like pop music and divas and things. And it was like, these are so different to each other, shoving them all onto one page and just posting it all out. No one is going to follow you, because they're so random that no one is going to follow you. So I was like, you've brought me in to revamp everything and to change what you were doing to make it fun and accessible to everyone. But anytime that I tried to like change anything or do anything that was different to what they had already been doing, I was instantly shut down. I wasn't told, oh, we're not too keen about this, we're not too sure about that. It was like, no, stop it. It was like, don't do that. We don't like that. Do this. And it wasn't friendly. It wasn't helpful. It wasn't guiding. It was instantly just like, no, you can't do that. And I was like, I don't understand why I'm here then. You've brought me here to do this, but you keep telling me to stop every time I do what you're telling me to do. And one thing that they kept insisting that I did in this job as well was freeboot content. Now, if you don't know what freebooting is, it's definitely a taboo thing to do in the creator industry, in the creator world. Essentially, you take someone else's content. So you'll take like a viral video or something, you might remove a watermark, and then you'll just repost it on your own social media as if like you made the whole thing, you made the joke, with basically no transformation, put our watermark over it, and just write like a funny caption like in the actual description of the video. Not even like, sometimes it wasn't even make it into the square. In the creator world, that's a real thing that's frowned upon. Oh, I hate doing this, but I had to. Like, I was told that I had to do it, which again hurt my soul a little bit, because I was like, this isn't what I signed up for. It became very evident in the first couple of weeks that the job that had been advertised to me and the job that I was doing was not the same thing at all. I had no creative freedom in this job, even to the stage where there was one weekend where, and I tweeted out, it was like Saturday morning and it was a beautiful day. I didn't have to tweet this on Saturday, but it was a beautiful day, and I was like, do you know what? Let's just see how this tweet goes. Like, you know, it's experimentation. I was like, it was a beautiful day. I just tweeted out a picture of the sky and was like, it's a beautiful day here in London. I was like, have a lovely weekend. Tune in at blah, blah, blah for this X thing. Tune in at this for X thing. I went in on the Monday, and Karen, as soon as I walked into the office and we all sat down, she looked at me in front of everyone and was like, that was a nice tweet that you put out on the weekend. Like, really stern. There was no like, oh, I love that tweet, that was really nice. It was just like, that was a nice tweet you put out on the weekend. You can just tell people's vibe. That was her saying, don't fucking do that again. Like, you can just tell the vibe, you can tell the tone. And of course, I'd been there for a few weeks at this point. I was like, that was her saying, do not do that again. What's actually hilarious about that is that tweet got more interaction than anything else that was posted. And I was just like, now, I want to tell you a little bit about Karen. The best way to describe her in today's standards, she would 100% be a crazy right-wing turfy she was the most generic middle-aged angry white woman, has a stick up her ass about everything, 100% wants to be the star of everything. She was horrible. When it comes to adult bullying and adult bullies, she was top of the line. Wow. There was a few people in the office who weren't nice. All of them had their own management. They all had different people they managed. And in the office as well, there was different interns, and there was a few tech people who did some of like the real hard backstage coding of like how to make the website run. Really early on in the job, I would overhear, because I had to go in and out of the office quite often anyway, I would overhear many times Karen slagging off other work members, Karen slagging off the talent that she would manage. Sometimes to the stage where like one of them would come in to do like a job or to be sent off to do something as soon as they would leave.
She's so fucking annoying. I cannot stand. I don't know why. She moans about everything. She's so like diva-ish, and like, she doesn't want to do this and doesn't want to do that.
And at first I was like, maybe these people are being a bit diva-y. Like, you know, sometimes influencers And you know, sometimes some of us can be arseholes. Over time working there and working more with them, I was like, oh no, you're actually just really, really envious of these people. I honestly believe that Karen was very envious of these people for being famous or for doing what they were doing, because some of them were a lot more known than I was as well, like actual, like close to like actually being like real kind of like mainstream celebrities. She was clearly so envious of these people, to the stage where sometimes when some of them would do interviews, when someone would do their jobs, she would even come into the shot and be part of like the interview, when she is just like the producer manager woman. Like, she's not the talent. And like, it was weird. I don't understand why you'd get involved. And out of all of them, like the other people that would manage other creators and other influencers, none of them would do that. It was only her that would do it. And she was always then the one who would slag and bitch and whine about what they were doing. One of the first things she said to me actually in one of the early days when we talked about training interns is she said, I love making the interns cry. And I was just like, first of all, you don't really know me as well. Like, yeah, I've worked with you a few times, but like to say something like that to me, I'm new here still to this job. We might have briefly known each other beforehand, but like that's a very odd thing to say to someone you don't really know. And what kind of impression was I supposed to have of you saying you enjoy making the interns cry? Like, what? Karen loved shaming me in front of everyone else. It was about 2 to 3 weeks in, the entire group of everyone got an email, and it was addressed to everyone. So like from the very, very top boss, again, who I never met the whole time I was there. I never met him once, which is so fucking weird. But the top boss, all the way down to like the lowest level intern, was emailed saying that they were unhappy with the social media posts going out. Some of them were not in the right tone. Some of them were not in the right theming. There was a spelling mistake in one. Like, some of the grammar wasn't perfectly correct. Listed out all these things about essentially how I wasn't doing very well at my job, because I was the social media manager. When things tweeted out, when things went on Instagram, Facebook, that was me. No one else there. And essentially shamed everything I was doing. Again, I want to stress, even though I was told to change everything, shamed everything I was doing in front of everyone, saying how awful it was going. And I was so mortified by this. I was so embarrassed. And like the email came through everyone, because we all got like, all the computers in our room, all the computers went beep, 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 as if like an email went through, because we were told that we had to keep like the sounds on and stuff, so we weren't ever late. Like, we had phones and everything as well. There became a thing of like us against them. The people in my room knew the tea. They knew what was going on and how weird things and how awful Karen and some of the other people were there. So like, we formed our own little group. And when the email came through, all of them kind of just looked at me and was like, oh, I felt so mortified. I was really trying my hardest to like make a difference, and for it to go to like the head boss, number 1, number 2, Susan as well. It went to all the interns as well. It went to everyone in that main office. I was just like so mortified by this. I went into the other room and I just cried, because I wanted this to work so badly, because I needed this job. I called Karen into the room and I had a discussion with her, and I was like, I'm really trying my best. I was like, I'm trying new things, like, because she never referenced anything in particular. She kind of just said tones and everything, and the style and all this shit. Obviously, I'm very sensitive, maybe not so much now, but especially then, because it was a big thing for me. Like, I was really sensitive about my dyslexia as well. And so when she mentioned things like spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes, she never pinpointed anything. She just kind of said it. That really triggered me. That was my one biggest insecurity about coming into this job, that it would be a barrier. And of course, I was using slang words and fun things to make it seem more relatable to people in tweets and media that I was posting out and like referencing to shows. And so she gave me this little bit of like a pep talk and be like, and now you're fine, you're doing wonderful. I was like, well, I'm not being wonderful, am I? Because you've just said all this to me. I think her seeing me crying like maybe made her panic or something, I'm not sure. And she gave me like this big hug. And I could tell it was disingenuous. I just knew that it wasn't real. I was like, okay, sure. So I went back in the office, and Bob and Mary comforted me, and the intern guy who was there, they were all kind of comforting me and stuff and being like, I actually really like what you were doing. And like, especially Bob, he was like, I think what you've been doing is great. Bob was actually leaving. This was round about his last day. Me and Mary were kind of panicking, because we were like, great, so Bob's gonna leave now. We need to make sure that we can get someone else in. But this was quite a big job. When he left, they made Mary essentially take on his job. And then her job was then meant to be overtaken by interns, which of course, again, like, no, you were giving her a salary and you were giving him a salary, but he's left now because he realized what a shithole this was. Instead of actually getting another person to do a full proper job, you've now giving it to us to train an intern to do an actual full-time job placement, where an intern's only here for a couple of days, so we're training different people to do a full-time person's job. It was a shit show, and it became very evident to me over the course of the time I was there that essentially it was like scam people to come to work for them for free. The amount of times that we had to interview interns and like hire them to come and like do the side jobs that we didn't want to do, and essentially told to lie to them, to be like, it's a great opportunity, you can come here and up, climb the ladder, all this shit. It was all lies. They were trying to work a company where they had a load of people working for free under the guise of like internships. Essentially, me and Mary were doing the job. Suddenly all of our time was taking up, so I had even less creative freedom. A full-time position disappeared and there was no one to replace them. Times our stress by like 1,000. Talking about the videos and things that are making us create, the Susan woman who was number 2, she was obsessed with like Love Island, and she kept trying to get me to make like these like Love Island videos and Love Island content. Love Island was still massive at the time, and it was still a big thing, but like, this is not a Love Island channel. You can make jokes and references now and then. You keep asking me to make Love Island content. This is not a Love Island talent management agency. That's not what this is. And she also, one time, she wanted me to make a joke about someone cheated in Love Island. I do not watch Love Island. The most vapid content. I hate it. But someone cheated on someone in Love Island or something. I don't know. And then she was like, oh, why don't we make a joke about Chris Brown and women? And I was just like, Chris Brown? You want to make Chris Brown? We're going to bring Chris Brown into the social media. Chris Brown into our... I find it so strange that he's even got a career, especially after the Rihanna stuff. But then all the shit that happened afterwards, like he's assaulted other people, like he's horrifically homophobic. Like it's such a hateful individual. I was like, you want me to make a video about Chris Brown and Love Island? What? It was classic case of like, these people had no idea how to run a social media. After a while of that happening, like it really crushes your like creative spirit. Unless you've been in that situation, it's very difficult to kind of put into words like what it does, but it definitely when someone keeps saying to you, your ideas we're not doing, it fucks you up after a while and it gets into your head. And I want to say as well, the other people that worked there were also very bitchy and would undercut you to get above. They were like the grassiest people. Like if you ever said or did anything, they would 100% grass you up. I would hear them talk about other interns as well and be like, they did this and telling on them and stuff. They would all backstab each other, and it was just a horrible environment to be in. And I was like, they're clearly saying things about me as well. One thing that happened, it was around Pride weekend. It was about maybe a month after, I can't remember exactly what it was now, but it was a month after I was joining there. Obviously Pride weekend was happening, so I said to them, I was like, oh, it's Pride this weekend. I'm gonna make sure I get a little bit of extra stuff done because I want to make sure that like I don't miss anything by accident because it's Pride, blah, blah. So I even made like a fun little content video about Pride. They allowed me to do a thing, like, it wasn't stupid. I did like a video about like top 10 Pride anthems or something. So I did like a Pride video. It was great. And I was like, oh my God, they actually let me do something for once. I scheduled out all of the tweets. I scheduled out all the posts on Instagram. At the time, you couldn't schedule it on the platforms themselves. You had to use Outsider because on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff now, you can actually schedule tweets and posts on there. But at the time, you weren't able to do that. So I had to use a thing called TweetDeck. And there was an Instagram one that was slightly different and a Facebook one and stuff. And so you'd go on these platforms and essentially they were linked to your actual socials, and you would just like set a time and a date, and then they would tweet out for you through this companies. All you had to do was like schedule it in as long as you were logged into it. Within that time of me like logging everything on and going home for the evening on the Friday, someone in the office had changed the passwords because they most companies as well will change their passwords every like 6 months, every quarter, whatever, to make sure no one extra knows. People who might have left can't then also access it. The password got changed, but no one told me. Because of that, all the other apps had lost access to the actual Instagram, the Twitter. And so none of the things that I'd scheduled to go out over the weekend actually went out over the weekend. So I came in on Monday, all three of the talent management and the rest were in the meeting. I walked in, everyone just seemed really pissed off. And I walked in, I was like, morning. And they were like, all right. And I was just like, for fuck's sake, what now? Because even though it had only been a month at that time, so much shit had happened, especially directed towards me, that I was just like, what now? Have you not noticed? And this is Karen. She's like, have you not noticed? And I was like, noticed what? She's like, none of your things went out over the weekend. This is unacceptable. And I was just like, why hasn't it gone out? And I looked and I was like, someone's changed the password. Well, you should have been checking it and made sure that your stuff still went out. And I was like, no. It's not my fault that someone has changed the password and not told me. I also do not have access to it if the password is changed. So even if I did notice that these things didn't go out, I can't do anything because no one's told me that the password has changed or know what the new password is. Even if I was able to get onto it, I also then don't have all the media that I need to be able to like repost all this stuff because these things just failed to go out and they disappeared. I didn't have all the photos and all the videos and things on my home computer because why would I? I was really told off in this meeting in front of everyone, mind you, all of the staff members, all of the interns that were in that day, told off quite sternly that it was unacceptable that these things didn't go out. This is my fault. This is my job and I should be looking at it all the time. And I was like, first of all, I'm not looking at it all the time. 9 to 5 my job is. And she was like, there's no reason why at 7 in the morning you can't wake up and tweet for us. Do it on the weekend. Just because it says 9 to 5 doesn't mean you can't like tweet over the weekend. I was like, well, the last time I tweeted over the weekend, you made me stop. And at that point, I was just like trying my hardest to like bite my tongue. I really was struggling at this point. I was just like, I've had a wonderful Pride weekend. It was actually the weekend that I met Luxaria. I had such a wonderful weekend and I came in on such a high and I was like, do you know what? Like, this has been a bit of a shit job so far, but let's just let's go with it. I came in with really high spirits and I was just like, I hate it. Like, I felt so ashamed of myself and embarrassed and mortified, but also like upset and angry that I was being blamed for something that wasn't my fault. Like, why would you change the passwords to all the social media and not tell the social media manager? Because up until this point, all the stuff going on the weekends had all happened flawlessly. There was no mistakes, and like it was all flawless. Everything had gone up perfectly. So why would I suddenly check this one morning and be like, oh, I must check to make sure all my tweets have gone out? No, once I leave the job, I'm gone. Why would I randomly check that one day? It wouldn't surprise me if it was done deliberately, because I was talking about Pride Week for so long. I was really excited about going for this weekend, Pride weekend, sorry. It would not surprise me if someone did that deliberately to f with me. It was around about this time that I was starting to feel like they were trying to get rid of me and they were trying to make my job as hard as they possibly could so I would quit. Now, I came to this conclusion because of the way they didn't replace the video editor to begin with, and then how they were treating me up until this point. You don't like the fact that I have come in and actually questioned how you're running things. Even though that's what you've asked for, I was someone who didn't just bow down to your wit. And I don't think you really wanted someone to come in and change everything. I think you wanted people just to come in and say that what you were doing is perfect and everyone else was the problem. But that's not me. And I come with ideas and I come and I want to change things. And every time you told me no, I started to get the impression that I was being pushed out. And this is why I was thinking that someone did this and changed the passwords on purpose. Because why would you? Because why would you do it when I've gone home? That's when the cogs started churning in my brain that was like, someone here doesn't want me here. I'm not going to go down every single little instance because we would be here for 5 minutes. 5 minutes? We'd be here for 5 hours. This kind of stuff happened all the time and my soul was slowly starting to get crushed and crushed and crushed. And about the 5 or 6 week mark, I was like, I can't stay here. I really had to question whether I stayed here. And I went out with my friend Callum, my housemate, obviously. We had a long discussion. He was like, you really need to make a decision now what you want to do. And of course, you need to make the best decision about money, because at this point I was like, I need to leave. I need to leave this place because I just can't, it's starting to destroy me at this point. And people around me had started to notice that my mannerisms and things that I was doing was changing. I'd stopped making as many videos on the internet, and like my whole presence had really gone down. The amount of people that were messaging me being like, are you okay? Because you've been acting different. I wouldn't want to leave the house. I started to get quite bad anxiety. I wasn't sleeping. And this is when it was about sort of 5-6 week mark is when it really started to show. And I was trying my hardest to like not show people. I'm going to jump forward in the timeline a bit because this kind of just repeated itself over and over again. At this point, I had got to the stage where I was just doing everything they were doing before. I was even copying tweets. I went back to old tweets and was like, clearly this is what you want. And I would just like copy the same tweet that had been posted by the old person from like 2 years ago. And I would just change 1 or 2 of the names. This is clearly what you want, whatever. I was doing the video content. I stopped coming with like real ideas. I ended up just saying stupid things. Oh, this video was funny. Let's just take this. And like, my whole demeanor completely changed. It was about the 7 week mark. I got called into Susan, the main office, and she was like, we need to discuss your productivity in this place and what's going on and what you've been posting. And she did this whole deep dive into everything I've been posting and being like, this doesn't have very many views. This doesn't have very many views. This is not the right tone. This doesn't have very many. You're not doing good enough job for this video here. This post isn't good enough. And she made this whole thing about like when you're doing, because I had to buy adverts on Facebook and I would like promote things, and she's like, the tags on this video just isn't good enough. You need to look better and do better tags. And I was like, okay, so what should I do then? I don't know. Just do better tags. She was telling me that my tags and things like that. But I want to say, by the way, I knew what I was doing. What am I supposed to do then? If you're saying to me you don't know, well, why didn't you ask the person who left? It's been 2 months, sis. And she made this whole deal about how companies come to this agency and they go to the Facebook group and they instantly see this is like the doorway for their experience. So like when they see a video that only has 30 views, what does it say to them? And I was like, yes, because what did you tell me to do? Not to change anything. Everything I was wanting to do, and the times that I was able to push through, like that, it was like that top 10 anthem thing, compared to everything else, got like thousands of views. Got thousands of views. Didn't let me do it again, did you? What do you want me to do? Like, you're asking me to get the... I was just like, at this point, it felt like... I don't know if, like, gaslighting is the right word. People use gaslighting in the wrong way now that I'm starting to, like, double guess what gaslighting actually means. But, like, essentially, they were telling me that, like, you're doing everything wrong. This is your choice. You're supposed to be doing this. Yet it was actually them telling me to do it. And I was like, I'm not crazy here. Like, this is what you're telling me to do. But now you're telling me that what I'm doing is wrong. But you are the ones who are telling me to do this. And it was really like she was trying to f with my brain about what was right and what was wrong. She went on and on for ages about how, like, when people come onto the page, they have to see quality and loads of views. And what I found out as well, this wasn't actually me. I never was able to do this. And I found out that they were doing it because sometimes people would comment things about like, I don't remember following this page. Now when I see that, I instantly know what companies have done. But then it was like a newish thing for people to do, where essentially Susan, behind the scenes, buying Facebook groups, whereas she would get companies that would like have massive platforms who would sell their, I mean, completely against terms of services. Like, it's completely against service clauses. Like, you can't sell channels. Turns out that they were buying other established like Facebook pages and then just like merging the pages together. Oh, it makes sense now why none of the stuff that I'm posting as well is getting no views, because these people aren't here to follow you. It was all underhanded. I was like, you're damaging your own reach by doing this. They wouldn't listen to me. I went out of that meeting just really disheartened, and I was just like so beaten down. I've never cried. I can't remember the last time I cried as many times as this I did working there, but I couldn't leave. I was like, I cannot leave. I just can't. If I left, like, I'm putting my housemate in the shit, because obviously then he's suddenly gonna have to pay the rent if I can't afford the rent. I wasn't making any, again, this is before my viral video, which I'll get to because it's very close to the same time, but like, I wasn't making any extra money. So it wasn't like I was able to like just leave. Like, I needed to stay there. So yeah, we had this meeting, and essentially in this meeting, I was essentially just told that what I was doing was just absolute shit. I was told that apparently Keith, the boss, was so unhappy with my performance. He's so unhappy with who he's brought on. He's so unhappy with how the social media is going. The top man, Keith, right? He was used a lot as like a weapon of like, oh, you don't want to meet Keith. He's very stern. If you meet him, he'll be very upset, very angry. He'll shout at you and blah, blah. He's really angry. He'll get in so much trouble if you speak to Keith. I never met this man. The whole 3 months I was working there, I never once met him, which I think is really fucking weird. I would understand if meeting every intern is probably quite a lot, because there's people coming in and out all the time, but an actual solid staff member who's taking on one of the big roles in the job, I'm really surprised that I never met him. I understand if it's a humongous company. Our company, like, on the grand scheme of things, was a small company in this talent management agency. Why have I never met the boss? Like, where is he? Like, you keep telling me that he's gonna come in and he's gonna be so angry, and you would see him and all these emails and things. Never once met him. Never once met the man the 3 months I was there. It's weird. One time towards the end, where he apparently came into the office and everyone was like, oh, Kate's coming in today, make sure you blah, 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 make sure you do everything nice. After them telling me that he's gonna be such an awful man, he's gonna be so shouty, blah, blah, blah. Still never met him. Still, he didn't come into my office and say anything to me or my staff members who were with me. I, you know, went out of the office many times to go to the bathroom, to go to my lunch and all that stuff. Never saw him. Was Keith even real? Who knows? I never met him. I just think it's so weird that a smaller company like this, that I would never meet the boss. I have theories that I'm going to discuss later. So in that meeting, she was like, right, I want you to tell me everything that you're doing throughout the day. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, I want you to make a database rota thing. What me and Mary, the video editor, was doing on a weekly basis. Every day, what tasks we set out for ourselves, what we wanted to achieve, and like what our goals were and if we did them. I don't have time to do this extra fucking work now on top of everything else you're making me do. Like, I don't have time, but I was like, of course I'm gonna have to do it because you're telling me to do it. And she started to micromanage what I was doing. And so me and Mary were like, we had a big whiteboard in our office. So we did like a huge, like almost like you know, like across like an Excel sheet, marked it Monday to Friday. We wrote on everything that was gonna happen in the week, where like who was coming in, what videos needed doing, what tweets needed going out, what everything and what editing, everything. Also in that meeting, one thing that Susan did was she said, where are the reports? And I was like, what do you mean by reports? She was like, the reports on social media. And I was like, I don't understand what do you mean? What do you mean reports? And she was like, where are the reports that you're meant to send me that say how many followers we gained, how many views, every single video and every single tweet, every single thing we went out, where every single, essentially what she was saying was she wanted me to give her like a weekly breakdown on the Fridays, everything that had gone out, how many views it had got, how many followers it gained, how many likes and things, so it was your Twitter, how many likes, everything. And I was like, first of all, I've been here now for, this is about 6-7 weeks in, not once have you said to me that you want these reports? And then I messaged the other girl and I said to her, I was like, were you told to give these reports every week? And she was like, no. And then I asked her afterwards, I was like, are you being told to give them like a database of like kind of everything you and the other people in the office are doing in the week? She was like, no. I'm sure it is common in social media jobs to like give reports to, you know, the people to be like, this is what we've done in the week and whatever, when it comes to like, if you gained followers or whatever videos and things. And if this was told to me at the beginning, I would have known, but it was never, nowhere did anyone ever say to me, the level of like detail that she was asking me to send her, I was like, this feels weird. Like you're giving me so much extra little bits of work to do. So not only now you're asking me to do an entire graph of like everything that me and the editors and the interns are doing, and also send it to you as well in like a database. You're now asking me at the end of the week to do a very intense breakdown of everything that had gone out, all the interaction on everything. You're giving me so much extra work out of nowhere. And again, I want to stress very strongly, nowhere in the induction, in the information pack that I was given when I started on the first day of my own. No, like again, with the other girl who I was working with before, it was never stated that they needed this like intense breakdown anywhere. This is another tactic to try to overload me with stuff where I quit. I went into like my office. Mary was sitting there and I told her everything that I've just been told and what to do. And she was just like, we've never had to do anything like this before. At this point, I've been like gaslit and like had so many remarks and shamed in front of people over and over and over and over again. I was so beaten down at this point. Coming up to 2 months, I was like, I can't stay here. I was like, I can't do this job. And I was really panicking at this point because I was just like, I don't know what to do. I do not know what to do. On that Friday, I stayed like, I must have been maybe like 2 hours after about 2 hours after getting this like report done for her. On the Monday, then we started doing the rota about what was going to happen in the weeks. We came in on the Monday, we had the meeting, whatever, went into the editing room, and me and Mary did like a huge graph on the board. We wrote everything down, and then I did like a digital version as well and sort of had it there. The week went like normal. It was shitty. The same kind of bitchy, catty stuff gone on, but like nothing dramatic happened that week. I sent the rota thing off on the weekend, and I was like, this is what we've done on Friday, sorry. I was like, this is what we did in the week. This is everything that happened. She called me in the office on the Monday and she was like, I'm not happy. And I was like, what now? Like, what? I've done everything you've told me to do. Like, what now? The rota sort of weekly data stuff that you're doing, it's not good enough. And I was like, what do you mean it's not good enough? She was like, no, I want you to tell me exactly what you're doing in that office and what you are doing specifically at every moment of every time. And I was like, what do you mean at every moment? To cut a long story short, she literally said to me that she wanted me to timestamp every single little thing that me, Mary, and an intern was doing by the second. She was like, I want to know exactly when you come in, when you turn that computer on, the time you're turning that on, and how long it is taking you exactly to do every single thing that you guys in there are doing. I need to know that I'm paying you the right amount of money for the things that you are doing. And I was just like, so not only you're like micromanaging me, you are 100% trying to overload me with stuff now. You wouldn't be able to convince me otherwise. I was like, you are trying. And then she said that Keith is furious about what you've been doing. He is furious about what everyone in the office is doing. He thinks he's wasting money keeping you all in, and we're trying to keep you. We're doing our best to keep you, but he is so furious. Well, why isn't he fucking telling me? Why hasn't he come in? The last time he was saying this to me, when he was in his office, all I heard was him laughing. If he was so upset with what we were doing, why did he not come into our office and say the social media team are letting everyone down? I was just like, I went into the other room and I told Mary what had just happened then. She was just like, what is happening? Like, what is happening? Again, I want to stress as well, I was putting out the correct level of content that needed to be done. I was making out all the content that was needed to go out. Nothing was missed. I was doing everything that I needed to do. So I don't understand why this sudden, again, I didn't understand why this like questioning of what we were doing in our office, even to the stage where like my lunch breaks were like really monitored. There was one time where I used a bathroom. So there was quite a big building we worked in, and the bathroom that was near me didn't have any loo roll in. So I needed to go to a different one. So I went to a different toilet that was a little bit further down the corridor. Susan was on like, I don't know what she was doing down there herself, but she saw me and she like grilled me as to like where I was going and why I was not like in my section. And I was like, first of all, it's my lunch break. So even if I was down here for any other reason, like I did say to her, I'm going to the toilet. That one didn't have any loo roll in. Even if that wasn't the case, I'm on my lunch break. I'm on my lunch break. You don't own this building. You just work in this little section of the building. This building is owned by it's a little bit like one of those massive skyrise buildings that have many different offices that work in the same thing. It was essentially like that. I was like, you don't own this building. And she really grilled me with just going to the toilet. And I was like, it's getting to a level now where I can't even go and have a shit without her going, what are you doing down here? So Mary wasn't from the UK and she was going on a 2-week holiday. Her like yearly holiday was coming up to go back home to where she came from to go visit her family. I was dreading this. I was dreading her going. Of course, at this point, we had already been kind of struggling with the workload because they didn't replace the editor. I had 2 interns in. One of them was the guy who was there for a while, but he was also getting ready to leave. And there was another intern who had just started, who was actually like a full-time intern. Now, she was on some sort of like exchange thing, and she was actually getting like a small payment, but it was from her university. It wasn't from the company I worked for. And she was brand new, but Mary was going for 2 weeks. So it was essentially down to me and this intern who only just started to essentially keep this office afloat. I was dreading it. So she went for 2 weeks. I was trying to do my job. Then all this extra stuff that had been put onto me, but then also tried to like guide this intern who was also here because she was great. I got her like subtitling videos and things and like doing some of those jobs. And we worked our asses off so hard those 2 weeks that Mary was gone. We did incredible. We even had a couple videos go like quite large. I was so proud of her and myself, to be honest, that we did this, especially because at this point I was so run down. I was so distraught with everything. A lot of the time I was waking up in the morning and I was just crying. It took me real effort to even like leave the house to go to work because I was so scared, essentially, because I was like, what am I going to go into now? What abuse am I going to have to face? What kind of gaslighting am I going to go into? What extra workload are they going to suddenly ask me to do? Mary comes back after 2 weeks. She would come to our office first, turn all of her stuff on, and we'd have a little chat beforehand because I was always in there first anyway, just because I was the head person. Had a conversation with her and I was like, we work so hard. I'm so proud of Jill. We'll call her Jill. I was like, I'm so proud of Jill. Jill did so well. I was like, I'm really proud of how much work she did. Like she's done so well considering she's new. Thank God she was a full-time intern as well. If I had to do that with like a part-time one as well, I would have died. We walked into the main office and we all sat down. The first thing that Karen says in front of everyone, thank God, Mary, you're back. It all went to utter chaos and shit when you were gone. In front of me and Jill, my intern, in front of everyone. And like Mary just kind of like looked at us a bit like, what? And the whole team and the staff members there were just like, like just looking at us as if we were like utter shit. At that point, I was like, if I don't leave here soon, I'm gonna have a mental breakdown. Not only was it bullying, horrible, and like it was fully just bullying at this point, especially because like it wasn't true. We did so well in those 2 weeks, considering we were doing 3 people's jobs and one of us was an intern. I went in the other room again and I just started crying, and I feel like I was crying more because I felt really bad for Jill, because she's come all the way from Canada to do this like opportunity. I don't know what it was sold to her by the company to her university. I don't know what happened, but there was some sort of exchange thing. I don't know what it was. I felt so bad for her because she was clearly upset by what had just been said, because we did such a good job in those 2 weeks. I don't know. I completely shut down. I even went home early that day because I felt so unwell. I felt so ashamed of myself as well. Unless you're in the situation, it's really hard to handle and actually truly understand what it makes you do, what it does to your brain. And the manipulation and the gaslighting that was happening, it started to affect me where like there was parts of me that almost believed that I was doing an awful job, even though that I knew that I wasn't. The reason I kept wanting to do better and better is because I was like trying to prove to them that I wasn't doing a bad job, especially because this job meant so much to me and what it meant to me to leave retail. It was like you start to almost believe your abusers, that you kind of think that you are in the wrong. So I don't know if I believe in like fate or believe in, I don't know what this meant, but around about this time I had my very, very first piercings gone wrong video go viral. I don't really know how I powered through that video because I was so run down at this point. And a few days later, it went like viral. Oh, this is an interesting thing to go through. And it really gave me like a huge pick me up, because I was like, could this mean something more than what it might be? Is it a fluke? I don't know. I got 1 million views in the first couple of days. And of course, Mary, I told her when it first happened, I was like, this is so exciting. And she came in a couple of days later to work and she was like, hello, Mr. Million Views. And we had a bit of a laugh. And I got up my live subscriber count on my channel. And it was just like every 10 seconds, like an extra 100 people were adding to my subscriber count. I gained like 150,000 subscribers. Like my entire YouTube channel just like doubled, and it was so exciting. I was getting loads of views, like, and of course then there's a ripple effect. So all my other viewers around it was getting loads of views, and I couldn't just suddenly be like, right, I'm a full-time YouTuber now, girl, because like it, you know, you don't jump the gun like that. But it happened at the same time that I was really, really depressed and sad in this place. I was like needing to leave this place, but of course I wasn't going to jump to any conclusions and be like, right, suddenly a full-time YouTuber, whatever. Around about the same time, something really, it was like the worst moment of me working there happened. This is obviously summertime at this point now. It's festival season started, and for this company it was a really good time because all of their like talent was going out doing like gigs in the festival. Some of them were doing viral, some of them was doing like video content, some of them was doing interviews, and they basically took these people to all these loads of different festivals were going on. This is where my friend comes into it. They had my friend go to this festival. Some of the people that they had him interviewing was completely opposite to what he does on the internet, to what he stands for, to what everything that he was doing on the internet did not match with what they were getting him to do. However, we had talent in our roster that was perfectly fitted, like multiple different people. They got my friend to interview this person, and my friend is gay. I mean, most of my friends are gay, but my friend is gay, a flamer. I'm not going to go too far into what the content was, but let's just say the person he was interviewing was so far from the LGBT community. The style of stuff that he did on the internet and the shows that he was doing was so not an LGBT thing. And I just knew when I saw him interviewing him, I was like, when we post this on the internet, on all of their socials, on all the socials, the people who are going to be drawn to that because of the celebrity that's being interviewed, they're not going to receive my friend well. I just know it. I've been on the internet long enough. I just know they're going to end up being homophobic or something. I was like, this is not going to be a good match. I went up and I, did all the videos that we were meant to do, subtitled things and everything. I posted all the content on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Neither one of them shared the content because, of course, why would they? Because my friend who did this isn't going to share it because none of his audience, because a lot of the time when I would post all their content across, the talent would normally share their stuff because when they present things, when they do shows, like of course they're going to, show themselves, being like, we did this show last week, it was amazing. Again, when I saw this interview was going to happen, I was like, Tom, I'm going to call him Tom. Tom's not going to share this interview because it doesn't make any sense for his audience aren't going to care about this artist. Like it's not going to work. And then again, in my mind, I was like, I'm not going to say this artist is homophobic, but let's just say there's a lot of homophobia in this genre of like music. Like, he's not going to share this interview with this like flamer interviewing him. Like, it's just not going to happen. As I suspected, the YouTube video and the Instagram post got a bit of pushback from audience members. There was homophobia. Why is that doing this? Oh my God, look at that stupid little like. So I deleted these comments and I blocked these users, and I did it on both of Instagram and on the YouTube. The Twitter didn't get any interaction whatsoever, which suspected, and so did the Facebook. In this time, it was in one of the festival days, some of the staff members were in the office, and I just went and spoke to one of the other managers, and I was just like, out of curiosity, who is in charge of like designating the talent to interviewee? Because like, I was like, because I just explained to her, I was like, for making more sense for content-wise, I was like, we have these few people here that would be far better matched to do this interview and do other things. I was like, this one's done now, it's too late. Going forward, I'm just wondering like who is in charge of this, just so I can be like, maybe get something else to do it. Because of course, again, I'm the social media manager and my job is to get the best interaction. So when I need to get opinions out, I'm going to say, this will be better for video content. And she said it was Karen. And I was like, of course it is. When everyone's back in the office tomorrow, just bring it up in the meeting in the morning and we will discuss it. The next day comes. And honestly, I thought about it overnight and I had a conversation with my friend and he was like, honestly, I don't mind. Like, don't bother. It's fine. So I was just like, do you know what? If he's fine with it, I'll probably get someone saying to me the views aren't very good, but I'll have to explain it then. But like, until that happens, I'm not going to mention it. Now, we had the meeting in the morning. We all went into the meeting and I discussed other things that had gone on. I was like, this has gone on here. Can we make a video about this or whatever? Normal got shut down as always. I didn't mention about the whole interview thing because I was like, it's fine, whatever. As we were literally walking out the door, that fucking snake of a bitch, she goes, oh, Roly, aren't you going to discuss what you told me about yesterday? And I was like, I looked round at her. All the managers were like looking at me at this point, and because she was sitting right at the back, and she was like, and it was her face expression. I was like, you know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly what you're doing. And at that point, I was like, no, it's fine. I've sorted it out now. Karen goes, well, that doesn't sound very good. What do you mean? No, you've sorted it out. We all came and sat back down. And I was like, yes and no. I was like, oh, it was something that I didn't bother. I was like, it's fixed now. Any issue, it's fine or whatever. And she was like, no, tell me what's happened. Instantly, I was like, this is why I didn't tell you. Like, this is what I made the right decision not to say anything because this is what you're reacting like. And I just simply asked the question. I just said, as a social media manager, I was like, I want to obviously get the best views. I just said, out of curiosity, I was like, why was Tom chosen? Again, I reiterated, I was like, as my job is to do this job, it makes more sense for views to have these other people do it. And I was also, Tom has received hatred towards him like he's never seen before. Like this stuff doesn't normally happen on our socials. I was like, he's seen a lot of homophobic abuse now on the videos, is interviewing someone who clearly the audience isn't going to be the most LGBT accepting. I'm being very careful with what I'm saying because I know what she's like. She had a meltdown, fully just like shouting at me in front of Susan, in front of the entire staff member, like all the interns, all the other staff members just shouting at me about how I'm being interferent into matters that didn't have anything to do with me. I was sticking my nose in where it wasn't wanted. I was, and how I was clearly trying to make her look bad in front of everyone, and how I was trying to like overtake her, like her like superiority. I don't know, she used like a funny word, and she kept going on at me, but it's essentially like how I was trying to like fuck her over and like demean her in front of like the boss and demean her in front of all the staff members, which again was not true. Again, and I kept saying to them, I said to her, I was like, I'm not doing that. Because at this point, I was losing my temper because I was getting so to the end of my wit's end. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm asking you because I am the social media manager and I have been told to do the best views for the best everything. So logically, doing this makes more sense. As I've said, this pairing clearly didn't work very well because none of them have shared it. The video views are terrible on every single platform, and the people who have seen it have been sending him homophobic abuse. She said something to me. I'm not going to say what it is because it involves my friend and it's like his personal information. It had nothing to do with anything. It was incredibly offensive. Not just talking about like, you just called him fat or something, or you called him ugly. It was like, what she said was so unbelievably offensive. In any normal situation, she would have instantly been fired on the spot. The level that she went to in this moment, because I mentioned that he received homophobic abuse, she said a sentence to me, and I'm not going to repeat it. I just sat there, like truly shocked out of my mind. Obviously, Mary was with me at this point, and some of the interns who I knew, who were in my office, all was like really shocked that they had said it. But the other managers just didn't react whatsoever. And I was just like, the fact that you said that to me is absolutely abhorrent. Abhorrent? Is that right? Abhorrent. The fact that you would bring that into this conversation and say such hideous things about one of your presenters, regardless of if he's my friend or not, is absolutely disgusting. I was like, I'm so shocked by the level of unprofessionalism that you have just shown. And I stood up and I said, I'm going. And I left the room and I went into the office room and I just like bawled my eyes out. Do you know sometimes when you get so angry that you can't even process what's going on? About 5 minutes later, Susan came into the room and took me into her office. Very different tone than normal because she could see that I was crying. She was like, I really think you need to evaluate whether this job is for you. And I was like, after everything that's just happened, that's all you've got to say to me. That's what you've just got. That's all you've got to say to me is, well, I was just like, in my mind, I was like, this 100% again solidified that you're trying to push me out of this job. And I just went through and I had, for the whole time I was there, I railed into Susan everything that Karen had done in that time. And I was like, this is how she's treating me. This is how she treated everyone else in this. I was like, I cannot believe that this is the level of, this is what's going on. I was like, it's so disgusting. I was like, I cannot believe, I was like, this is like, how is this allowed and stuff? Susan and Karen, they were clearly like busy mates. I don't know if maybe like they had known each other for a while or something. Karen, I know, had been at that job for a long time. I don't know if there was some kind of panic that a new person questioning things came in, like maybe, it would affect her job or someone else's job. I don't know. Clearly, they didn't like the fact that I was there, even though they hired me. Again, I want to keep reiterating because I was really trying to change things up. Again, like I was told to. I feel like the way that Susan spoke to me in this meeting, I think they had been planning trying to get rid of me for a while. In that time of me going into the office and like the 5-10 minutes later, if one of them has said to the other one, like, it's time, like it feels like looking back now, especially a bit wiser and older, it feels all so premeditated. It was like they both said to each other, that's the moment to go and say that to him. It's like they wanted to say that to me and they wanted to make it feel like it was my choice that I leave. I said to her, I was like, one thing that I've really struggled in this job with is my creative freedom. I said to her, I was like, you brought me into this job to make decisions and to change things up to help your channels grow. And everything that I've done, you've told me to stop doing. Whether that's anything really simple, like using a different type of font on the letters, using a different color for the subtitles, making a little joke or a meme pop in, even just like a little animation that would happen if someone moved quickly. I might make a little animation just to make it a little bit more visually appealing. Everything that I've done, you have told me to stop doing. So it was about 2 weeks after I had my viral video, The Piercing's Gone Wrong. And at that point, it was like 1.5 million views. I was like, I have just had a video on YouTube go viral that has 1.5 million views. It's bringing me a lot of new people. I was like, this is really exciting. I don't know what else I have to prove to you that I know what I'm doing. I was like, I don't know what else I have to do, that you need to trust my judgment on these things because I know what I'm doing. And she looked at me really confused. And I was like, I don't understand what this look is about. I was like, what? And she was like, you what? And I was like, I've just had a video on YouTube go viral. I was like, I've just gained all these followers. Like, I was like, I know what I'm doing. And I got my phone up and I showed her the video that just went viral. I can't explain to you the look of panic on her face. I don't know what it was, if she computed what had just happened, but she suddenly changed her tune. I could see her eyes change. And she was like, oh, so tell me more about this. You do loads of YouTube stuff. And I was like, you were in the interview. All I spoke about in the interview was how I was a creator already and I've got this big following and I know what I'm like, what? And she was really puzzled by the fact that I was a known person on the internet, especially because everyone was like brand new. So all my other videos that she was scrolling around was also having like multiple 100,000 views that had bled over from that one video that went viral. And suddenly she was like, oh, you're a big deal then on the internet. And I was like, I guess a bit. This is really exciting. She was like, oh, you shouldn't be working for us. You should be working with us. I don't understand why you're confused. I was like, you know I'm a creator. I was like, the whole point, all of my resume was just like, I have this many followers on my accounts. This is how I've grown them. Like, I would be able to grow your channels basically like I know what I'm doing, hire me, whatever. I was so puzzled as to why Susan was so perplexed by the fact that I had a following on the internet. I was like, you were in the interview. The meeting was over. I was like, I need to go and do my work now because I have the day's worth of work. Because trust me, if I miss something, you're gonna probably shout at me because I've missed this thing. So I went back into the office, really puzzled. I'd had like a slight inclination about some money that came in from that video, because obviously I can't remember exactly what the process was, but now on YouTube, it tells you can update it literally by the hour of like money coming into you, like what is. But at the time, it wasn't as frequent. But it was about 2 weeks after that video went viral, and I had like a slight inclination. I was like, oh, almost 2 months worth of rent. I've just had this really awful experience, but then a really weird experience. I told my friend what had happened, and he was so shocked. He'd already planned to leave the studio as well. I never told them this, but I was like, he was already planning on leaving, not necessarily because what was going on with me, just because he had better opportunities to coming in this way. He's like quite a big star now as well, which is quite nice. I don't know what's going on in the world right now. This really awful thing has happened. I've got a month's worth of pay coming in from this job. I've got this potential £1,500 coming in from this video. I think I had maybe £1,000 on my bank. I need to leave. I was like, something around me is telling me now to go. I was like, I don't know if this is fate. I don't know what's going on. If it's like sort of like atmospheric karma or something that's going on. It feels like this is a sign. I was like, this video's gone big. My second one has done really well. All of a sudden, this worst times happened at work. The work person's now going, maybe you should really think if you want to do this job. And so I went home, essentially wrote an email saying that I'm handing in my notice. I will work towards the end of the month, because we were halfway through the month. And I was like, I'll work to the end of the month. I'll finish off what I need to do. And then I was like, that'll give you time as well to like potentially find someone. So I'm not just like disappearing instantly. I got an email back like instantly. Like she was clearly sitting there waiting. It was so fast. It was like she had already written the response because she could tell that I was going to do that. Her response was, thank you for coming to this conclusion. We agree that this is the best choice. You don't need to work to the end of the month. You can finish at the end of the week. And I was like, they're really trying to get rid of me as fast as they possibly can. They could just get rid of me instantly, but there was a lot of work, and because it was still festival season, they were kind of away from the office a lot. So they couldn't have just said leave now. But the fact that they said don't worry to the rest of the month, you can go at the end of the week, I was like, that is 100% what happened. So I came in the next day, and so at this point it was Tuesday? Suddenly everyone started acting very differently to me. Everyone was suddenly really nice. Everyone was very welcoming. No one was being rude. And at this point, I wasn't offering any much like video content. I did say, I'm not going into any meetings that Karen is in. I was like, I refuse to be around her. I was still so shocked that she just got away with what she said to me and nothing ever happened. But I did say like, I will not be going to meetings that Karen is in. So I did go to a few though that she wasn't there, because it was the festival season. She was kind of out with her people doing things, and it was a bit wishy-washy. But this is when some of the weird stuff started happening. After giving him a notice, I was then called into the office by Susan again, and she was raving about how wonderful I was and how amazing it was that I had all this success on the internet and everything. And it was very strange. I was like, this is very weird. I don't know why you talk to me like this. And she said that and also at the same time, the very first season of The Circle's being made. So The Circle was a TV show where essentially, if you watched it, I'm not going to go down it, but essentially it was basically like a different version of Big Brother. It was a reality TV show. People went on and talked to each other through a social media thing. It was all about social media. I was scouted to be on that TV show. I was dropped at the very last minute because they were asking me to do shady shit, and I was like, I'm not comfortable with what you're telling me. Reality TV, by the way, behind the scenes is absolutely disgusting. Like, realistically, we shouldn't be supporting it. Like, the way that they treat people and the way they ask people to do it's so underhand and disgusting, especially nowadays. I was essentially going for The Circle, and I was going through the audition process when all of this was going on, and I did mention it to Susan on the day about my video going viral. I didn't mention that I was also going for these like audition processes. She asked me about that because I'd had a meeting the day before, and she made like a weird comment like, if you need anyone to look for your contracts on that, get me up. I would love to help you through that process. And she was like, also, oh, by the way, we should maybe consider paying you to do like some videos for us on your YouTube channel, and we can get some content on. And I was just like, this is so weird. I was like, I don't understand. For the past like 3 months, all you've done is belittle me and call me basically the most pathetic names, and belittled me, gaslit me, had a go at me. And now all of a sudden you're being wonderfully nice to me. It was so weird. Again, it was one of those things that was like, they're fucking with me. was like, these people are fucking with me. I was like, I don't understand. You're now being so nice to me. I was like, I don't get it. I was so uncomfortable. I was like, I don't understand why you're being so nice to me. As would I let her look through my contracts and be anything to do with that, let her have any input on that, whatever. There was an intern who worked in the main office who'd been there the entire time that I was there. We'll call her Betty. Betty wasn't in on the day when all the drama happened, and I'd become quite kind of friendly with her throughout the time. She was LGBT. She was a bit alternative as well. Like, she had a few tattoos and piercings and things, and I was like, oh, she kind of gets me. Like, I thought she was actually really friendly. She came in. She was like, oh, the word around the office is like, apparently there was loads of drama yesterday, but no one's telling me what's going on. She was like, she just came up to me and she was like, oh, are you okay? Like, what happened? Apparently you got really upset or something. So I spoke to Betty and I just told her everything that happened, and I was like, I told her that I've handed in my notice and I will be leaving at the end of the week now, which is a few days on. And she was like, oh my God, like, I've been feeling the same way. Like, Karen has made me cry many times. She seems to love making the interns do extra work than what they should be doing, and she makes them get upset often. And I was like, I fucking know. She told me at the start, she was like, she loves to make interns cry. And she was like, I've been on the phone so many times to my mum, like, crying, but she was like, I really need this opportunity because I need it for my university degree and stuff. And it was just like, I felt really bad for her. The next day rolls round, and again, this is oh God, I'm kind of skipping through days now because, like, not really a lot happened because I was kind of just left on my own a lot of the time. The next day comes around. One of the managers timidly comes into my room and sat down beside me and just goes, we have a grievance to talk to you about. And I was like, I literally don't give a shit anymore. I was like, I'm leaving. I was like, you've got what you've wanted. What else are you going to come at me now for? And she goes, yeah, so Betty told us that you've been slagging off Karen. You fucking lying, scum-sucking rodent. You came in here to comfort me and to wonder who I was, and you gave me all these wonderful words, and I've been friendly. We've never had a single qualm between us, and then you tell me about all the stuff that Karen's done to you, and you have the audacity to go up to her and tell her everything that I just told you. Because then she said to me, she goes, Karen is so upset about this because you were bad-mouthing her in front of interns who didn't need to hear this. It's really unprofessional, and they're thinking about going to Keith, and you're probably going to get a disciplinary from him. And I was like, what else do you want from me? I was like, I'm literally leaving. I was like, what else do you fucking want from me? And then I just said to her, I was like, right, how about you ask Betty all the shit that she was saying about Karen to me? Because I think it's so funny that Betty's come up to you and said to you all this shit about me, saying I'm slagging her off, when she also said awful things about Karen to me. I was like, go on, go have a talk to her, go and tell her what she was saying. She's like, did she? I was like, yeah, why don't you go and ask her what she was saying about Karen as well, because that wasn't fake, that was real. What was she saying to her? And I was just like, I cannot believe that the one person who I kind of trusted, I mean, except for Mary, the one person that I trusted still backstabbed me. And I was like, I saw her later on in the day and she looked really uncomfortable when I walked past her, and you could see it in her face that she was like, oh, I'm scared of him now. And I just looked at her, I gave her the look, and I walked into my office, and I never actually saw her again after that day, but I was like, I made sure that she knew the look of like disgust. And I wasn't scared at this point of like the Keith coming to have a go at me. I was like, well, this Keith doesn't exist apparently. I've never fucking seen him. And then I said to Mary, I was like, I don't really understand what's going on here, to be honest, because so many of the staff members are now suddenly being really nice to me. And she goes, I wasn't going to tell you this, but I was in a conversation and Susan, Karen, and the one that came and spoke to me about me slagging off Karen, not Betty, but the manager who came and told me about like, oh, she's really angry. She goes, they're really scared that you're going to make a video about them. And I was just like, I fucking knew it. I had suspicions. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, they're terrified that you are going to badmouth them on the internet because of your virality at the moment, especially right now, because of how many issues, like how many followers and things you're gaining and how big you're becoming. They're terrified that you're going to make a video about their company. And I was just like, I fucking knew it. I just knew it. All of them for the next couple of days were at a festival. I wrote an email on the morning of the day that they'd gone, and I just said, just so you know, I'm not staying for the rest of the week. I was like, my mental health cannot stay here anymore. I was like, I'm so beside myself for the way that I've been treated that if I do not leave now, I'm gonna have a mental breakdown. And I got up, I walked out, and I never went back. It took me 6 months to recover from that. I was left with severe anxiety. I couldn't eat. very well. I lost lots of weight, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I was so down. I even did a video. I was like, I got fired. And like, if you watch that original video, I said I got fired. I kind of skirted around the issue about what happened. I didn't technically get fired. I was bullied out of my job. Yeah, it left me with PTSD for about 6 months. Took me about 6 months to really feel like myself again. Something happened in that time. Thing that I needed the most out of anything, and all that I worked for over those 10 and a half years at that point, all this time that I'd worked suddenly paid off. I was gaining 100,000 subscribers a month. All of my channel just like completely blew up. And I mean, it's still my full-time job now. It went so well. It's still my full-time job now, but I don't know what I would have done if that video didn't go viral. It happened at the right time, at the right moment, and I needed that more than anything at that point. Being in that environment and the bullying that I had to endure was the worst time of my life. I would never wish that feeling on anyone. And what again solidified to me that they were just trying to get rid of me is they didn't replace my job. So poor Mary, when I left, she had to do my job, her job, and the assistant editing job as well. That was split between both of us. So she actually left. It was only about it was like 3 weeks after I left. She left because she was like, I cannot take this. I remember I did check on their socials about maybe 6 months after I left anyway. And I find it very interesting that the amount of times that Susan was going on at me about how important it was to like make the content correct on their Facebook group and everything, how many views, everything was big. We need massive views. You need to buy all the advert space, all you need, blah, 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 blah. So I scrolled all the way back. Everything was abysmal. There were hardly any videos going out, hardly any posts, hardly any tweets, any Instagrams. All the views were like a quarter of what they were when I was doing them. Same with YouTube, same with everything. All the views were like a quarter. Half of the content was just like missing. You clearly were trying to get rid of me because you kept saying to me that we needed to post all of this stuff. Everything needs to be on time, big views. Yet as soon as I leave, you don't do any of that stuff. Everything just goes to utter chaos and the whole social media side of it just completely dies. You clearly just wanted me gone. It was so obvious. I went to check on them before making this video because I was like, do you know what? Let's just see if this company's still around, because I hadn't checked with them since COVID. And I was like, with the kind of industry that they were in, like talent management, COVID closed everything down. I was like, they were very limited to what they could do because they like, yeah, people can do like, they did some like online stuff. But again, like, do people care about online Zoom call things? I don't think anyone actually gave a shit about any of that stuff. They only have like 2 people left. There might be more, but like there's only about 2 people left on their like roster. I don't know what staff members there because the staff members were never like listed anywhere. They hardly post anything on any social media now. Essentially dead. As I said, one of the reasons why I'm not naming who they are is because I actually don't want to give them any publicity because like they are so irrelevant now that even though I'm slagging them off, they'd actually probably gain things from having me talk about them. Now, what I'm about to say is purely speculation. I cannot prove this in any way, shape or form, really. I feel like there was something dodgy going on there with like money. And I don't know if it was money laundering or some kind of like tax thing. Something weird was going on. One thing that was also a very interesting thing when it came to pay, I was told that I needed to send an invoice to Susan. And I was like, but you have all my details. I'm like, why am I sending you an invoice? And we had to invoice to Susan the month that we'd worked, the time, and just put the monthly, salary that we would have. And then it dawned on me, no tax came out of it. So you had to do a tax on your own. It basically came into your bank as if it was like a self-employed. When I worked at Morrison's, for example, the pay that they gave you and what was advertised as this is what you got, that was what you got paid. When I was told that I was going to get paid this, I was like, oh, actually, I still got to take more money off it. Now, I was working for a company. I wasn't self-employed. I'm being told now that I'm being self-employed and I had to do it myself. There was a lot of dodgy money stuff going on there. I don't understand how they were making money and was keeping afloat. The level of money that they would have been spending and what was coming in did not add up. I saw a lot of their finances stuff from being on where I was. I got to see a lot of the budgets. I got to see a lot of what was coming in, and it did not make any sense whatsoever. Especially considering what happened afterwards and how like everything just kind of died. I don't know if there was something going on, but there was 100% shifty shit going on with money and how much money they were actually earning or making or paying people. Because I knew how much they were paying all the people as well who were coming in for like jobs and stuff. I believe something dodgy was going on, whether it was money laundering or something. I don't know, there's something weird going on. And the fact that I never met the CEO, something was going on. There was something dodged going on with that. And by me disrupting it or causing too much attention and changing things and making them go a little bit too big might have exposed them or something. Because I don't understand why you would say you want people to come in to do all this job. Because they made the job sound really exciting, but it was nothing like that. And I think they didn't actually want the extra attention. They used the advert to draw someone in and hoped that they would just like stay in their lane and actually just like default to what they were doing before and just keep it going. But because I wanted to make like a real difference, I think they panicked and then tried to get rid of me. That's just my speculation. I don't know. Something dodgy was going on there. 100% that was a dodgy company. Hence why like all of the talent has like now left them. And what they didn't know as well is they tried to bring on loads of my friends. The amount of people that would talk to me about like, oh, I had this opportunity coming up with the company, and I was like, do not go with them. And they went with other people. They lost out on so much work because of how they treated me, because I was like, you do not want to go with these people. My friend obviously also left them, did his own thing, but it was the fact that they were like, they were terrified that I was going to make a video about them. And again, I think it's because they were scared that I would like bring attention to their company. And this is why I think the whole thing was a whole ruse. They got me in this opportunity thinking that I would like just be like another one of their sort of like pawns and not really actually disrupt anything, because as soon as I disrupted stuff and tried to get them more attention and more views, they panicked. And that's when all of a sudden all the weirdness started really intensely trying to get me gone. And I think that's what it was. I genuinely think that's what it was, because they're doing something dodgy and they didn't want the extra attention, and they had to use the allure of the job because no one would get it. If they actually said in the job like category what the job actually was, no one would have gone for that job. Especially for 17k, no one in the right mind would have signed up for that job. Especially because they kept saying to us to lie to interns when they come for interviews. And as I said, towards the end when we were interviewing interns, I kind of skipped over a whole part of the intern drama that happened all the time with all them talking about how awful we were at getting interns. I was telling them not to come in. I was like, just like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just don't do it. It's so satisfying to know that the people that treated me so shit, like literally nobody's. I don't know what, because this is 6 years ago now. I don't know where Karen or Susan or all the other people, I don't know if they still work there or if they've moved on or whatever, but knowing that I'm now more successful than all of them, like is so good to think about. But I'm sure other people have probably been in similar situations, obviously not maybe identical, but I'm sure other people have probably, you know, had similar things. Please feel free to comment down below. Would love to hear your stories. I'd love to hear them. And of course, anyone like, you know, read through other people's stories and maybe give some support to other people in the comment section. You guys are so loving to each other as well. So, you know, comment back to each other, have a nice discussion. I'll try to, you know, reply to as much as I can. Just look out for signs as well from people. Like if people start really micromanaging you in jobs, it's normally a message. A 3-month job took 6 months to heal from. I can't remember the last time that like I was scared to leave the house. This video is probably way too long. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I've missed out so much. I already know I've missed out so much, but please ask questions in the comment section if you have anything I haven't answered. I'm probably going to be like, I've missed this, I've missed that. But if I go down every single rabbit hole that happened, I would be here for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I mean, no one's gonna, I doubt any of them are ever going to see this video, but if any of you happen to be watching this video, fuck you. Awful adult bullies. There's nothing worse than an adult bully. And you are scum. Please hit the like button, subscribe. I'm actually filming this on Patreon change every day, so that patrons on day one, Patreon's always a bit of a mess. So thank you for everyone who does follow me on Patreon, all my patrons and everything. Thank you. I love your support. My next video, I'll go back to actually my shout outs and stuff, but thank you for all the support. I actually posted an outtake video the other day out there, so if you want to go see some outtake videos and stuff, go head over to my Patreon. And yes, thank you for joining me today. Subscribe, got my little QR code on the screen, and my next video will be a little bit more happy and upbeat, but as I said, I just wanted to share this story just in case anyone had been through similar things to show you that you're not alone. But yeah, be fabulous, be amazing, be gay, be everything you want to be, and don't let any bitch or tell you that you can't be. Why is that? Because you are flawless.